Welcome to the Behind the Bits podcast. Your host, Scott Curtis, wants to learn everything he can about stand-up comedy and take you along for the ride. Scott and his guests talk serious about comedy in every episode. Behind the Bits will uncover knowledge from different perspectives on subjects such as writing and performing stand-up comedy, as well as booking shows and the comedy life. If you're thinking about becoming a stand-up comic, already in the comic game, or a comedy nerd, Behind the Bits is the show for you. Now, let's get Behind the Bits.
Hey, BTB buddies. A while back, I asked for nominations for the 4th annual Discover Pods Awards. Well, last week, I found out that Behind the Bits is one of the 12 finalists in the Best Interview Style podcast. Holy cow. I was excited beyond belief. I am in the running with such podcasts as Armchair Expert, WTF with Mark Maron, and Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. It's a real honor to have Behind the Bits be selected alongside some of these really popular podcasts. I mean, I listen to some of these myself. The winner of all the categories, including Best Interview Style Podcast, is decided by vote. So now I'm asking for your vote. If Behind the Bits has provided you with information or inspiration, please help me to win against these powerhouse shows. Winning this would help Behind the Bits reach a wider audience and open up possibilities for interviews with comedians who might not talk to me otherwise. Your vote means a lot to me, as Behind the Bits is a real passion project for me. Please check out the link in the show notes and give Behind the Bits a vote for Best Interview Style Podcast. I'm told that you can pick any or all categories. I haven't really tried that yet because I already voted. Thank you for listening, and thank you for voting. Please vote for Behind the Bits for Best Interview Style Podcast between now and November 6th. And here we are live with Justin Foster. How's it going, Justin?
Good morning, I guess I should say. We're 3 hours different, right? It's like 3 o'clock where you're at, right?
Yep. It's afternoon for me and kind of just after afternoon for you. So yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Morning for me, but afternoon for most people.
Yeah, no doubt. Holy cow, Justin! I already know this, but where are you from?
Originally Dallas, Texas. Yeah.
And you're in LA now, right?
I am. Yeah, I've been out here about 8 years.
Okay.
So.
Okay, great. So, how long have you been doing stand-up comedy?
It's 15 years in July, actually. Okay. I celebrated 15 years in quarantine. So
yeah,
my first show was at the Improv in Dallas, and my last show was in my bedroom, and it's exactly where I figured I would be after 15 years. Alone, talking to my phone.
I know, it just sucks. It's absolutely the worst. So, starting 15 years ago, you must have been pretty young when you started. What influenced you to start doing stand-up comedy? Was it other comics? Was it, what got you into it?
Yeah, so I was a waiter at the Improv in Dallas. I waited tables there, and the money was like really good. I had no interest in doing comedy. I was just like, my roommate worked there, and she's like, yeah, it's really easy money, and it's like you work at a comedy club. And so she got me a job there. So I was waiting tables there for a while and making good money, and then I was like, I don't know, man. I just started seeing everyone do comedy like every single like Wednesday through Sunday, and I would see some of like the best, but I would also see these people that weren't that great. Yeah. And I was like, I could probably be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I probably won't be the worst person on the show. But it was really cool, like starting out as a waiter at a comedy club, because it's like, I mean, Bill Burr was featuring, Sebastian Maniscalco was doing guest spots. Like, it was really cool. You got to see like everybody. And, so that kind of inspired me to like do like an open mic, that cliche story where you do the open mic and then it's like, you're hooked forever. But that was pretty much my experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And any of those comics that came through when you were waiting tables, not just like the Bill Burrs of the world, but did anybody really stick out to you and say, man, I want to be like them?
I remember I got to host for Daniel Tosh.
Oh, okay.
And I remember like being like, just like really I really love like his style of comedy. And like it was like kind of like, I don't know, like quote unquote edgy, I guess, but like he just didn't really care. I really like that. Greg Giraldo. I was always like, I always loved watching Giraldo. I remember Patrice came through and did a weekend. I just remember being like on the floor. So there was a lot of people like that. You know what's really funny is like, I forgot who it was, but there was like this big name comic they had to cancel, right? And it was like, we were all really looking forward to it. And the management pulled us aside, like, this guy got a movie. He's not going to be here this weekend. So we have a replacement comedian. It's not going to be that busy. You guys probably aren't going to make a lot of money. So sorry about this weekend, but just kind of hang in there or whatever. So, the guy came in and it was Kevin Hart.
Oh, wow.
He was like the replacement. And I remember the staff, like we were like just on the floor, like dying. Like we were watching every show and it was like, this guy was like a monster. And like, there was like, I don't know, man, like it wasn't even like half filled back then, you know? And then it was really, and then the next time he came back, he was doing like a theater and then an arena and then like the football stadium or whatever. But it was like really cool to be kind of like on the ground floor of that, to being like, this guy's like amazing, you know? So there's a few of those comics that like really stood out to where we were like, it's, you know, Sebastian, like he was like one of our favorite. He would come in and do like guest spots and like feature and stuff. And then if I'm not mistaken, we might've been one of the first clubs to headline him. I know we were the first couple of clubs to headline Sebastian, but he was just like a staff favorite. We had him every like 6 months. So yeah, it was things like that you really got to see and like watch these really great comedians.
Right. Now, being in the area of where the comedy is being done and just soaking all that up, do you feel like maybe you got like a leg up when you did that first open mic? You kind of knew that you're not supposed to do, 3 minutes between your punchlines and stuff like that.
Exactly. No, exactly. It really, being like surrounded by it all the time, you saw like what worked, what didn't work. And then I had the advantage of like, I knew who like the cool local guys were that were like killing it. So I like went up to them and I was like, hey, here's my ideas. Can you guys help me? And we all sat down roundtable style, like these, like the local guys that were like getting work, like helped me hammer out that first set and kind of taught me some things that I wouldn't have known, which was, it definitely gave me an advantage, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So the next question is like totally off topic, but it's something I like to ask people because, I think I already told you I hate small talk, so I like to talk about real stuff. Are you like getting into any books that you're reading, any podcasts you're listening to, any music, anything that's inspiring you, especially during this downtime?
Sure. Yeah. I'm doing a lot of stuff, man. Like my friend was joking with me. He was like, man, you're the only one who's coming out of this like flourishing because I really am. I took like a 9-week meditation course via Zoom from India. I've taken a couple of script writing classes. I'm reading a book right now called Story, which is like that and Save the Cat are like the two like script writing books like you have to have and you have to read. So I'm really doing that. I retook a comedy class online from my very first instructor in Dallas, who started offering it on Zoom.
Okay.
And it was like, I first learned comedy from, and I was like, you know what, let me like check back in with this. So I did like this like really intense, writing course for stand-up and came out like with all this new material. And so I'm kind of like doing a lot of stuff that I haven't really been able to do because of traveling and stuff with comedy. You don't really get to sit down and dedicate. I learned how to play bass.
Oh, wow.
I just taught myself bass during quarantine. And so, yeah, I've been very, very active and like doing a lot of stuff during this. So
well, I totally applaud you for doing that because I got, I'm on the other end of the spectrum where it's hard for me to even just get up but it's been better. I think when you commit to some stuff and the accountability you had with that class, then that makes a new sense of urgency and you actually get going and you don't feel like you're forcing yourself as much. And
especially if, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was done.
Oh, I was going to say, like, especially like from an ego standpoint, like you don't want to take a stand-up class and being the guy who's done it for 15 years and like show up every week and like be like the worst one or like have no material to pitch and like the people who have never done it before are just like running circles around you. So really like it really kept me accountable for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. One of the questions I like to ask is, and you can do like your top 3. What comedy album or special would you say are your top 3?
Ooh,
specials?
That's great. That's really good. Yeah, I would say Patrice O'Neal. I actually just watched his Comedy Central special like 2 nights ago again.
Mm-hmm.
David Tell, Skanks for the Memories,
mm-hmm.
which is on Spotify, is just like perfect to me. And then you know what? I would say for me, like Kings of Comedy. When I was young, I remember watching, Bernie Mac, mm-hmm. Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, and D.L. Hughley. Like that was it for me. Like that was like I love that special so much before I even just like got into comedy like that. So I would say those 3: Patrice, Attell, and Kings of Comedy special. Yeah,
that's cool. It's sad that we don't have Bernie anymore because he was definitely the strong one in that special.
You know what's funny is I went back and rewatched it recently, and I had like this like crazy new respect for Cedric the Entertainer set as well.
Oh yeah.
Which apparently was flipped. Apparently he had to follow Bernie on that special.
Oh, okay.
And if you watch it knowing that, it's kind of admirable because Bernie just absolutely just rips the entire place apart.
Yeah.
And I think I would have called it. I don't think I would have gone on if I was but it's all right. Just let him keep going. But yeah, those 2, I actually rewatched it, and both of them it's just a powerhouse set.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to watch, and I don't consume a lot of TV media, but I've watched the show he's on. I don't know what it's called, but I've watched the show it's on, and they've got him so restrained in that show. And I know it's a TV show and it's on network TV, and you gotta change certain things, but it's almost like it's not really even him.
Is that the one where he's like the neighbor?
Yeah, it's a black guy, white guy thing, and all the differences. And I just feel like they could have done so much more with him, and he's just really just playing like a character. Yeah,
it's really hard. Network TV they don't really take a lot of big swings anymore, or like a lot of chances. Yeah. I'm a big Simpsons fan, like a diehard Simpsons fan. I've been listening to I've been going back and watching because I have all the box sets and all the commentary and stuff of all the notes that they've gotten of like, you can't do that, you can't say this, and how just restricted they were, and that was considered like super edgy.
Yeah, I remember that at the time. That was nuts.
Yeah, and it's like they were saying after the Janet Jackson thing at the Super Bowl, that the stuff they could do got like cut in half. Like they couldn't even show the cartoon character's nudity anymore. They couldn't show Bart's butt after that.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
that's nuts. Do you know Matthew Swakos? Because he loves your album, dude.
Oh, awesome! Okay. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I do have an album out. I guess I should have put that in my top 3, but
yeah.
That would have been weird. It's like David Tell, Patrice O'Neal, and Justin Foster.
Yeah, that Justin Foster album was great. So before we go off live here, I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about things that you're working on, places you'll be, and direct people to your socials and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I just direct everyone to Instagram and YouTube. Instagram is Justin Comic. YouTube is the Justin Foster. As far as where I'm going to be, I really don't know. It's still kind of up in the air right now. But I do put up stand-up clips, sketches, crowd work stuff on both of those platforms. Also have an album on Spotify that people can check out. It's called Dangerless, and it's just my name, Justin Foster, and you can stream that for free. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you are going to be at the Plano Comedy Festival coming up.
That's right. This weekend I am.
Yeah. What night are you?
I'm Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. Are you in the roast battle?
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I'm not, which I wish I was. I actually just roast battled my girlfriend. The Jeff Ross thing. It was like one of the it was really fun.
Yeah.
She won. Spoiler.
I don't know why, but they put me in the roast battle, and I don't even know what I'm going to do because I've never done roasting before. I've been roasted, but I've never really done it. So I'll adapt.
Yeah, but it'll be great.
Yeah, I think I'm doing an early Saturday show, like the 5 or 6 p.m. one or something like that. So that's cool. All right. Well, Justin, this has been the Rapid Round, and everybody watching, we're going to go off live and talk for real now. And listen to the Behind the Bits podcast. This week's episode is Mr. Showtime David Scott. And it's one of my favorite episodes because for a zany guy, he got really serious about comedy and talking about Broadway, talking about the Rat Pack and stuff like that. It was a really, really good episode.
That's cool.
So if you haven't caught that yet, make sure you check that one out. I've listened to you, like I said, on a couple podcasts, and it seems to me, I may be looking into this a little bit further than I need to, but it seems to me that right before the epidemic or the pandemic hit, something was probably going to happen for you. Were you like right on the edge of something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just felt that momentum, and we'd started going from the guy that I tour with. We'd started moving from comedy clubs to like big theaters, and just felt that like 15 years of momentum just come to like a crashing halt.
Yeah.
But I like to think that I've been around long enough that I can hopefully pick it back up and continue in some facet. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just kind of watching and seeing where you were, just watching the YouTube and watching the socials and going back a little bit. I felt like something was happening. I've talked to so many people that were right on the cusp, and I do like to get the super big names on the podcast whenever I can, but it's not a focus for me because the people who are out there working for it usually give better advice than the people who have already done it. Sometimes they forget what it takes. Not everybody's Steve Martin and can go back, 20 years later and write a book about it. But,
right.
But you guys are the ones who are in the trenches, and that's the ones I like to talk to.
Yeah. We started moving up from Motel 6 to 5-star hotels, and people starting to pick you up and giving you rides instead of Ubering everywhere. And I don't know. There's a part of me that, like, taking the career aspect away, it's part of me that really needed the break too. And obviously I never planned for a year break during a pandemic, but there was a certain bit of like, God, I need to slow down. I just need to rest in my own bed and kind of relax for a minute. And then I got it. And it's lasted a little longer than I hoped for. The first month I was like, this is like the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me personally, because I was just like really worn out, and it was hard for me to write. And I was just, cause it's like, I don't know about you, but I'm always like, I'll just write in the hotel room, or I'll write on the plane, or I'll write. And I never do. Yeah. It's like, it's just so worn out or whatever. So.
Well, it's just a ton of unfleshed out premises. It's just like, okay, it's a sentence or two that could be absolute comedy gold, and you never go back to them. And when you do, you forgot what you wanted to do anyway. So
right, exactly.
That's the tough part. So thinking back all the way back to when you did that first open mic, and your material was probably a little bit more polished than most open micers, and taking that experience, what did it take from you to get to that experience to get like your first 20 minutes, time wise and work wise?
That's a great question. It took me a little bit longer, because when I first started, I just did like one-liners. I just did kind of like set up punchline jokes, which I still do. I still really love. But I loved Dave Attell and like Mitch Hedberg and those guys. So I try to do not like necessarily as dry delivery as Mitch did, where it wasn't just like set up punch. It was disguised a little bit better, but essentially it was just kind of a set up punchline. So it took me a little bit longer to get 20 minutes, because if you're writing one joke at a time, it is a little bit of a haul. And especially in Texas, where it's a little bit of a smaller market, I would take shows my first, 6 months or a year, where they were like, can you do 15? You'd be like, oh yeah. When I had like 4.
Yeah.
So I kind of just had to figure it out. But what's really weird is like, I got really lazy, and I just kind of was like, oh, this is the set that worked. And I would like try to throw some new stuff in, but man, like I really didn't grow until I moved to LA. Mm-hmm. That was really the thing that like cracked everything open for me, was moving out here. And then like the 20 minutes turned into 30, and the 30 turned into 40 turned into an hour. Then I recorded the special or the album, and then I started from scratch. And then I was like able to like rebuild material a little bit more quickly.
Okay.
Just because like out here, it just like pushes you. It pushed me to like really like step it up.
Yeah. What was it about moving to LA that made you step up like that?
I think you have to, for me, it's like, I like, you're around like the best of the best all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, it's like, I mean, you'll do like a bar show and it'll be like, hey, you're going to go up after Alonzo Bowden. Is that cool? You know, it's just like, just killers all the time. And like, not even like big, like dudes you've never even heard of, and girls that you've never even heard, women, excuse me, that you've never even heard of that have moved here, you know, and you're like, okay, you're like looking at the list to see where your name is at. You're like, okay, I have to follow these 3 people I've never heard of. And they're all just monsters because they've also just gotten here from whatever town they were from. And so it's like, it really pushes you like, man, like you got to really adapt out here. And then the flip too, there's a lot of crazy people out here too that you have to follow. You have to like really be okay with resetting the room when someone does something completely bananas as well.
Yeah.
So it's just like WWF ninja karate comedy all the time out here. That you know, it's like I did a show out here because like there's like a couple of comedy clubs, but unless you're like a really big name, you're not working it very regularly. So you have to do like these off the spot places. And like, it's like I did a train yard where it's like every 5 minutes a train would go through and the DJ would cut the mics and play Born in the USA. And so it's like, you have to like start. And it's like, when you get to like a comedy club, like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah.
Like,
no doubt.
I just did a 3 p.m. spot at a comic book store. Like this is, you know, homeless shelters I performed out here. So it's like that, like you really sharpen it.
Yeah. So as far as when you moved out there, how many nights a week were you able to perform after you'd been there for a little bit?
So, you can get up 7 nights a week here,
7 nights,
all the time. Yeah, you can do as much as you want or as little as you want. It's really cool. I mean, there's dudes, I mean, God bless them. I don't, but there's dudes out here before the pandemic that are doing like 5-6 mics a night, every single night. I'm kind of old and cranky and I don't want to do that. But, the younger kids that are like full of fire are like, you can get up a bunch.
Right. Now I hear you came from the Dallas scene and you got like the Dallas scene, the Chicago scene, the Denver scene, which are in and of themselves pretty good, but they're not New York and they're not LA. What I've heard is they tend to be a little bit more tribal. They tend to be a little bit more nurturing, and everybody helps each other out, and you can call somebody and get a decent gig and stuff like that. And then when you go to LA, it's like every man for himself. Is that how you felt about it?
Yeah. The Dallas scene has a really, really, really good reputation in LA. There's some Dallas comics that moved out here before us that have just blew the doors. I mean, I would put a Dallas lineup of comics against any scene. And so we had like a good reputation coming out here. Like, oh, you Dallas guys are going to come. Like, you guys aren't really messing around. And so that helped a little bit. But yeah, you kind of have to start over and find your own like clique in LA, you know, because the people that you started with in your hometown can't really help you anymore. Like, they're not the ones running the shows here. They're really not it's like the local LA dudes who are like in the scene, like that are doing the shows, doing the podcasts. So you kind of like, you all come out here together as a group, like we did. Like, there was a bunch of us that came out here. There's like 10 or 15 Dallas dudes that came out around the same time.
Cool.
And then you kind of branch out, and everyone kind of has to like find their own way, really.
Yeah. So out of all those people that came out, the 10 or 15, how many are still there?
All. I mean,
Really?
just like Cristela Alonso,
Okay.
Tone Bell, Nick Guerrera, Dustin Ibarra. You know, there's just like just a solid group of people that are like working and killing it. There's a few people that moved back, but like I moved out here with a dude named Mark Agee, who like once he got out here just stopped doing stand up, and now he's like writing for TVs and like was living in New York writing on Netflix shows. So like everyone kind of like found, you know, their own kind of way.
Yeah. That seems like that's the story of the ages, because you hear about people like Alan Zweibel, who worked for Saturday Night Live. He started out as a stand-up, and he found out he wasn't very good at it, but he was good at writing. And so, he wrote for a lot of people and then got on Saturday Night Live, and, he just killed it from there, and still writing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you do find your place. You mentioned, you kind of hinted at the script writing stuff. Is that something that you're kind of leaning into right now?
Yeah, right now I have so much free time, and so I'm kind of cranking out this script that there's two. There's one that I'm really excited about and I want to do, but it's like it's going to be like a $200,000 movie. Uh-huh. And so, I took a class, like if you want to do a $200,000 movie, you have to do a $20,000 movie first,
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like trying to do both at the same time. The one that I'm like really excited about. And then I'm the one that, like, my first one that I can kind of fund on my own and show that I can do it. So I can do the next one that I'm like really excited about. Yeah.
Right. That's cool. And do you go with humorous subject matter? Are you going for the drama, the crime drama? What?
The one I'm really excited about is a heist movie. It's okay. It's full Ocean's 11, Usual Suspects, Ant-Man, heist vibes that I can throw some comedy stuff in. And then the first one, the one that I'm kind of like working on now that's more easy to film, is going to be like a Reservoir Dogs, Saw type of like one location, really easy. I have a bar that I have access to that's kind of closed down during the pandemic. So I'm kind of trying to write around something that can just take place at like one location.
Yeah.
It'd be like, hey, this is kind of what we can do. And then so I can kind of get funding for the next one.
That's cool.
But I got a lot of friends who are like really great script writers and have like done some like really cool stuff that are always just like, yeah, send me your stuff. I'll give you notes. I'll help you out. So it's like, I have to like use that, it's like if I have all that at my disposal, especially now when no one's working, especially there's a lot of actors too. There's a lot of actors who are like not working right now. They just want a project to do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a really good time to like kind of cash in on that.
Yeah. So let's go back to before you started comedy and you wanted to think about what you wanted to do in your life, and maybe even before you started waiting tables at the comedy club, was script writing, was getting in show business something that was on your mind? Okay.
Always. Yeah. I was in bands for like forever before I did comedy. I did like acting stuff as a kid, and like in my yearbook, it's like most likely to become a comedian, most likely to become a talk show host, that sort of deal. So it was always kind of like I always wanted to do something entertainment wise. I really dug the music thing and playing music, but that kind of switched to comedy and that sort of like that. But it's always been entertainment. Yeah, it's never really, the idea has never really been to do anything else.
And it seems like, I've talked to a lot of people during the pandemic, and it seems like you must have your shit together in some way that you can deal with, there's obvious disappointment because you're on a roll and now you're, kind of, in limbo almost, and being able to lean into other projects and still keep writing and getting your sets tight and stuff like that. Is there some, I mean, with the meditation and stuff like that, do you feel like there's some way that you found a center that you didn't have before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think the meditation stuff helps so much because it gives you that break, right? Where it's just like, I'm not like, oh my God, I'm obsessing and this, that, and the other. It kind of gives you that a little bit of pause where you go, yeah, like it's okay. Like, it's not that like at the end of the day, I'm telling dick jokes. Like it's going to be all right. If I get to do it again, which I probably will, then I'll just kind of start. It's really given me an appreciation of like, I took it so much for granted where I would just go and I would just bang out the show. And like I did my first live show in front of people a couple of weeks ago. Oh, God, I just appreciated it so much. And I was like, man, I really miss it. It gave me like a newfound like appreciation for something that I took for granted for a few years.
So are going into this, and as a person, are you somewhat of a spiritual person?
Yeah, very.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, you give that aura that you've got, that you've got something that centers you, and the meditation obviously helped it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it helps me a lot because I can get really caught up with my own thoughts and what I have and what I don't have and what I need and what I think I need. And so like the meditation and the spirituality stuff really gives me that like pause of like, you're okay. Like everything is fine. And,
And I guess that translates because I did the crash course on Justin Foster, watching all your videos, your live stuff. Some of the stuff you did that was those minute-long videos, talking about the different subjects like when the Facebook people were going to go to Area 51 and stuff.
You're
like
right,
that.
yeah.
And you seem very comfortable in just about any situation, and that goes into the crowd work that you do that seems a lot more natural than most people I see do crowd work. So you just kind of lean into it. You see something that looks interesting and you go for it. Is that something you've always done, or is that something that came about later?
It came about a little bit later. It used to be like really mean, like a lot of people's crowd works are, where you like find an audience member and you like make them the butt of the joke. And I felt really bad doing that. Like there was a sense like, oh yeah, I gotta laugh, but like at this person's expense, it felt like punching down a little bit, and I felt really guilty. So I kind of switched it up a few years ago. I guess a little bit longer than a few, but a while ago I switched it up to where it was always like they were part of it. I always kind of like yes and it and make it. And if they wanted to hang themselves, if they wanted to keep talking and say something completely stupid, like that was on them. But I was never going to be like, yeah, that's a dumb shirt, or, whatever. Like, what do you do for a living? Well, that's stupid.
Right.
It was kind of like, oh, that's awesome. And then let it kind of come naturally. And that seemed to work a lot better for me. And then they'll come up to me after the show, like, that was great. Like, thanks. They're like really excited to be a part of it versus like, yeah, you're kind of a dick. Like I'm on a date and you're making fun of me, and I'll apologize. I'll straight up apologize on stage too. If I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. That, like if I feel like I've kind of gone to, and I feel people like respond to that better when they know they're not going to be necessarily the butt of the joke.
Right. And it as I watch that, it just feels like like you said, the whole audience goes away happy instead of 98% of the audience is happy, but that 2% that you really ragged on is just totally pissed off at you, and they're going to be the ones to go on social media and say Justin Foster's an asshole or whatever.
Yeah, write a Yelp review to the club, and the club's like, they don't care about the 98 people that enjoyed it. It's the 2 people that are like pissed because they got a babysitter and you ruined their night. That's my buddy. He's a professional clown. He does like clowning stuff at Children's Hospital. And he's way better than me is what I'm saying. And but he's like telling me, he's like, Justin, like you really have a gift, like these people, like they got a babysitter, they paid for parking, they got dressed up, they bought 2 items, like they bought tickets to the show. It's like it's your job to like give them a good experience. It's like, and I really like, I don't know why I never thought of that. It's like, it was very selfish of like, what can I get from this audience? How can they make me feel better about and then when he like explained to me like what people go through to actually go to the show, it really made me appreciate the audience a lot more.
Right. And I see 2 schools of thought that you're at war with the audience when you go up there, and the way you win is to make them laugh. And then the way you just expressed it is the audience came there to see you and you owe them the good show so that they do laugh.
Yeah. I mean, there are shows where I'm at war with the audience, but usually it's not the audience. It's usually the conditions of the venue. Like you're kind of like, you just have to go out there swing. But for the most part, I like to think like we're all in this together, like they want you to win. Like they paid $30. Like they want a good show. They don't, they're most of the time, they're not just gonna be like, well, prove yourself. A lot of times they're like, yeah, like we want this to work as much as you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like to play it as we're all on the same team.
So thinking back, almost everybody who's been doing it as long as you spent a good amount of time as the feature act, and thinking about when you were the feature act, do you have any experiences as a feature that just stick out to you that made you think, okay, a feature isn't so bad, but I want to be done with this? And
well, yeah, I mean, to full transparency, I still feature.
Okay.
I have a friend, I don't know if you know Drew Lynch, who was on America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
I still feature for him.
Okay.
He's the one that's doing a bunch of theater. So I still feature a lot. And I love it. I love headlining and being the guy that people come to see, but there's a certain sense of being the feature, especially for someone who has a draw and a fan base, I love it. To answer your question, though, yeah, I remember. So I used to do a lot more crowd work than I do now. I used to do a ton of crowd work. And I remember when I moved from feature to headliner, my feature was doing a bunch of crowd work.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember being like, oh, this kind of sucks. Like this and I remember texting the guy who I used to tour with and be like, hey, man, I'm sorry. I've never been on the other side of that before, where it's like now the headliner has to go clean up your mess because you've got them all talking and riled up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still like hosting sometimes too. I still like going back to where, so I like doing all of it. But yeah, there's a certain, like when you're the headliner, there's a lot of things that you have to deal with that you never thought about as a feature, like the people before you, the show's running long, check drop. Oh, I remember when I first started headlining, people would get their checks. And I'm like, why is people not listening anymore? So I like doing both, there is a coolness of featuring there where like the pressure's just off, you're not the host, you're not responsible for kicking off the show. If you just are terrible, the headliners, they're there to see the headliner anyways. Yeah. So you can really take a lot more chances as a feature. And I always tell people who are featuring to like use it to like try new stuff and like really figure stuff out, because it's just like the cush spot. Right. They're already warmed up and they're not drunk yet.
Yeah. That's good. I get two schools of thought from people who headline, and the one school of thought for headliners is feature act needs to stay in their lane. They need to do what a feature is supposed to do, which is bring the audience up to this level and be done with it. And then I talk to other people who are actually pretty darn good comics who want that feature act to push them, to make them to be so good that it makes you have to be that much better. Which one do you like?
I've noticed it's an age thing. I noticed that a lot of the comics have been doing it for like a really long time. They're like, kid, like, we get it, you're funny, but I'm just like, it's like, I'm not trying to work that. I got some stuff I'm working on. I'm trying to do this. And I noticed that like Drew, who's like young and like working on, he wants me to cut his head off every single night.
Yeah.
He just wants that. Yeah. And so I think it's kind of like, and I've definitely been on both sides of that before. We're like, oh my God, this feature's killing. I got to step it up because I'm last. And I've also been like, dude, I'm off of an airplane. I've been traveling for 8 hours. Like I just rolled in, like, we get it. You're good. Like dial it back a little bit. So I see both sides. Yeah. I definitely, especially as a headliner, because you got to do twice as long. You got to deal with the drunk people, the alcohol setting in, boredom, especially now with social media. God, man, social media has killed attention spans for audience members. It's brutal. You see them like, I haven't checked my phone in 5 minutes. Yeah. And you got 40 more minutes to go. Yeah. So I see both. I don't necessarily love it when a headliner's like, hey, don't do this, don't say that, tone it back. But I also understand when they're like, kid, like just tone it down. Yeah. Like this is not that type of weekend. I just did an hour that's on Netflix and I got to come up with a new hour in a year. So I'm trying to work on stuff. Yeah. I understand both. I'll never judge that. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned the social media, and I am right at the edge of just deleting everything, and I watched that Netflix special with my wife, and it worries me, and so I've really cut back. I turned all my notifications off and stuff like that. But in the comedy world, it's necessary almost to be out there unless you are like, Jerry Seinfeld or something like that. Even Gaffigan works the social media like crazy. And so it's really hard. A lot of people have stepped back from their personal pages and just done the comedy page. How do you feel about all that?
Well, I saw that documentary too, and it really affected me. Because I fall into that category of where it's a borderline addiction, so I've deleted everything off my phone. All the apps are off the phone. And so when I'll need to post something, I'll do it from my laptop. I have no problem like posting a joke and a video and a tweet and then stepping away. Being like, I don't care how many views it gets, how many reactions it gets, how many shares, how many likes. Like I did the thing and then I'm off.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for about a month now, and I've been a lot happier. Now, is that going to last? I don't know. Am I going to be on the road and download all the apps and stare at it for hours again?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
but I'm trying not to, and it's been about a month now, and my mental health has been a lot better for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I would agree, and I would think it really kicks up the creativity part too, because I mean, half of what you're doing on social media is looking at other people's jokes and saying, "Oh shit, why didn't I think of that?" And I sent one to my son the other day that somebody else wrote, and I said, "This is my joke. I mean, I could absolutely write this." And he's like, "Yeah, that's you, Dad." But I didn't, so it's not mine, and I can't. So, and that just frustrates you.
Yeah, and there's also a sort of like depressiveness of I'm kind of a news junkie, and you get on Twitter to post a joke, and then you're looking at what's going on in the world, and it's like 3 hours later, it's like, that's weird. I wonder why I'm horrifically depressed right now. That's weird. Just been staring at my phone and reading terrible stuff for the last 5 hours.
Yeah.
So getting rid of all that, not being uninformed and not knowing what's going on, but limited doses.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that's happened where I've been like, oh, that's crazy. I didn't hear about that. But it's also like, I don't have to read other people's opinions on the thing that happened.
Right.
So that's kind of where I draw the line.
So going back to the crowd work, I know that it's not as big a part of your set as it used to be, but it just seems like a natural part of you that you want to talk to people. How do you feel that? Okay, comedy audiences. You've been all over the country, obviously, and comedy audiences. Do you feel like different areas have different tolerances of how much bullshit they can take, and the type of act that you do and stuff like that? Like, take East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, North, South, whatever, however you want to do it.
When you say like bullshit, what do you mean?
Well. Talking about the first off the crowd work. So you say you don't want to punch down, but I feel like, okay, I'm a Midwest guy. I feel like in some clubs in the Midwest that you could actually, even if you're just saying hi to somebody, they could feel like you're punching down, or go the other way and think that they're your best friend and they are part of the act.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, I was actually going to say Midwest is the best for that in my experience.
Yeah,
the Midwest crowds love it. They love to be part of the show. They love to be messed with and talked about. I would say Midwest and South, they just like eat it up.
Yeah.
And West Coast is a little bit hard. A lot of people who are a little too cool for school. You know, it's like you're going to do crowd work on a guy who has more IMDb credits than you normally. And like, so Midwest is like, they love it. You get like, they don't like even like really like punching down and like, they're like, oh, that was great. Like, I loved it. Like, all right, cool. So yeah, I love performing in the Midwest. There is like a certain like cap sometimes when it's like if the show goes too long on like a Saturday night where like the booze definitely it's like a noticeable like the booze kicks in and they're a little rowdy. But yeah, at most crowds, there's like this weird thing of like, oh, what's PC and what's not PC and what can you say, what you're not going to say. And it's like performing all over. Like I've noticed like as if it's funny, like the audience like pretty much go along with you. There's this notion that comedians can't say anything anymore and you gotta be, and it's just like, again, is like my rule is like never punch down, crowd work or punchlines. And as long as you're not doing that, like they'll go along with you. I mean, from what I've seen, like audiences are there's not a lot of like, oh, you can't say that, it's 2020.
Yeah.
Maybe colleges and like super like on the coast, there's a lot of venues that are like that. For the most part, everyone's like, yeah, if it's funny, like we'll laugh. I've seen, I don't know, that's just a thing. People go, how's it like doing comedy in this current political climate? I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like that has a lot to do with it. My act is very like me based, and so it's really hard for people to be like, oh, you can't say that. And it's like, well, I'm not really like trying to change anybody's mind politically or anything like that. So I kind of have like a little bit of a leeway, I guess. Is what I'm saying. Yeah.
One of the guys, Tom Dreesen's one of my friends and one of my idols. And he talks about the healing properties of laughing and comedy and how, we're doctors, in some sense. Have you ever had somebody come to you and say, man, you really took me out of a funk, or your show really did something for me, and they walked away maybe even a better person because they watched you perform?
Yeah, a lot. And it's always like surprises me because like comedians, I can't speak for every comedian. A lot of comedians are very depressed people. Yeah. So it's like when they're like, I was really depressed, I saw your show, and you're like, I'm dying on the inside.
Yeah.
I'm glad you had a good day. Yeah. It's always funny to me because again, going back to like my act, like I'm not like, it's just like, oh my God, I was like, we've heard everything, it's like, oh, my sister died in a car crash last week and we came to the show to forget about it. And like, you really changed our mind. I'm like, I just talked about my girlfriend giving me a hand job while watching Forensic Files.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that thank you for putting me in the same healing powers as Gandhi. But it's like, it's funny to me, but I like that. It's just like we just came to forget about it, and like you guys did that, so thank you. Like that always like feels so good.
Yeah, and I guess I feel like there's no bad comedy as far as so some people think that they're more highbrow, like take like a Lewis Black. They say that he's more intellectual or whatever in his comedy, but I feel like, and I don't want to get on a soapbox here, I think no matter what your station is, as far as a comedian, whether you're headlining theaters and you've got 6 Netflix specials, or you're a feature act, everybody, when they walk up to the mic, they're all at the same place. Because they need to make people laugh.
Yeah, celebrity can get you a little bit of a leeway. Yeah, like if you're like a big like actor that they're excited to see, it'll give you about 10 minutes of fluff, but then eventually they're like, okay, let's hear the jokes now.
Yeah.
So you're right. Yeah, eventually we all start at the same spot.
Yeah. You can't write on that for very long in a set.
Right.
Have you run into anybody in your travels that you think should be a lot bigger than they are?
I think Paul Varghese, he's a comic in Dallas. I think he should be one of the biggest comedians there is.
Okay.
I think he's just absolutely brilliant. He's like a really good friend of mine, and but he lives in Dallas, and so there's like that glass ceiling is kind of there. But he's like that dude where you're like, give me a joke about hot dogs, and I go hot dogs, and he'll like, and then there's like 50 jokes about hot dogs. It's just like a machine,
Yeah.
And he's done stuff. I mean, he did JFL. He did Just for Laughs. Like they emailed his AOL account, like no management, no agent. Like he did Fresh Faces. He Last Comic Standing. He toured India with Gabriel Iglesias. Like he's done a bunch of stuff. I just think he should be like Dave Chappelle. Like requests him when he comes to Texas. Like he's like the guy. I think he should be like the biggest comedian in the world. But
right. So do you think that that's a matter of he just hasn't been discovered yet, or is he kind of doing that by choice?
Yeah, I think it's living in Dallas. I think, but it's like such a weird thing too, because it's like, oh, you could move to LA and like slum it for years and hope that you get a TV show to do more comedy, or you do what he's doing, which is doing comedy all of the time and making a living,
Right.
So it's like, you know, like he still like makes his money doing comedy, which is like what everybody wants to do. So it's like move to LA and get that thing to do the thing that you're already doing type of deal. It's like you may not be like everyone knows who you are, but you still get to do comedy every single night. So it's kind of hard to, I don't know. It's like I don't know.
Yeah. And on the other side of the coin, are there are there people who are at a higher station than you think maybe they deserve to be based on their, and I'm not looking for names. This isn't a name dropping podcast, but that they are much better at the business of promoting themselves than they are at the actual comedy.
Yeah. There's like that joke where it's like the dude comedian does an open mic second, gets business cards first.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that. Yeah. I mean, dude, especially out here in LA, I've seen people muscle their way onto TV shows. I've seen people muscle their way onto tours that are not ready.
Yeah.
They're just so persistent and so good at the sales part of it that they get stuff, you know, they're just relentless. I'm not like that. I'm not the best at like advocating for myself. I need to get better. I might be further along in my career if I was more of a champion of myself, but some people are just like undeniably focused of like, they should be here when the talent's not quite there.
Yeah.
And God bless them, man. You know, that's a talent in and of itself.
Right. And there's such disparity between having a business sense and a art sense, you know, those two minds don't go together. So if you lean heavily into one, then something is going to be missing in the other one. So there's got to be some sort of a balance there. And I guess I've seen, you know, I've watched so many Netflix specials during this thing that I've turned off after 10 minutes because they weren't good. And, and it just was, it was either formulaic or it wasn't, it was either, you know, stuff I've seen before, or it just wasn't well put together. It just turned me off completely very quickly. And I'm like, they're there. And I've seen people at the freaking club in South Bend, Indiana that just totally kick their ass.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I've seen it too. Like the local guy in town, you're like, who are you? Like, why are you not, you know, why aren't you on Netflix? And people say it to me all the time. Why don't you have a Netflix special? I'm like, I don't know. Call them.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm ready. Yeah. No, I have noticed that. My girlfriend, she's a comic. She's very funny too. And we've sat down, we've tried to watch a few specials during this and just be like, oh my God, that's like people who like you would expect.
Yeah.
It to be good, and you're just like, man, like that is like not, that's just, you're writing on that status, you're writing on the name, and you're kind of and then there's dudes who like Jim Jeffries, his special was like incredible. And that had every reason not to be good. You know, he's like cranking them out every year, and like that was amazing. So but yeah, I do notice that. I would love, I understand it's a budget thing and it's a money thing. I would just love if Netflix was like, all right, here's all these people you've never heard of. Here's, you know, here's, but you know, I get that wouldn't make sense, but.
Well, and I think they could do like a type of thing like what YouTube does, and like a creator studio, and you just put the stuff, you upload it. I mean, you do your own production and stuff like that. You put it up there and make it available, and then you get paid on how many people watch it and be done with it. And they're not out a dime on that except for server space.
That would be cool. You drive everyone to your own personal Netflix thing. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. Netflix is crazy picky, man. Like I know big name people that they've, like friends of mine that they've passed on. They've sent them their stuff and they're like, yeah, we're not even going to look at it right now. We've already got our lineup for the next like year and a half, 2 years.
And then they've got that total shit out there. It's just,
and then you go, oh, really? You passed? Yeah. Okay.
Who is making decisions?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Netflix, call me. I'm ready. I'm down the street. Let's go.
Thinking about what we're in now, the pandemic, and you've done some virtual shows and you're doing some, do you feel like there's some elements of the virtual shows that are going to outlive the whole pandemic, and maybe that's going to be a part of comedy going forward?
I think so. Yeah. I think it might be a hybrid of stuff, which would be cool if like a comedy club sells like subscription services. So you could like watch someone's weekend set from home from any part of the country. That would be cool. I know Tone Bell and a couple of people out of Bubba Gentry, a couple of people out here are developing. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a studio and it's all screens and it's all Zoom people, hundreds,
wow.
and it's 360. So I know that they're kind of trying to develop that into something to where like you can do late night appearances during the quarantine on this thing, like possibly, and do specials. And like, I mean, it's like hundreds of squares of people that can tune in and like, and you can play, you can play to them and turn around. And I mean, big name people are doing it.
Yeah.
It's a studio here in California. So that I'm thinking that may be a permanent thing that could take off. I've really been liking I think the open mic thing will stay virtual. I think it's really cool to do open mics just from your bedroom. The show thing, you really need that live audience, but I've gotten more out of doing open mics on the phone than I have like actually driving around and parking and doing real ones sometimes.
Yeah.
That may stay.
You get better feedback. People they're not all centered on what they're going to do. They're relaxed enough that they can actually watch what you do and give the proper feedback. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. I think the mic thing may stay. And then the subscription thing, I think outdoor and drive-through comedy things, people are kind of digging that. That may be a thing. It's just hard to be like, it's hard for me to like, regulate. It's hard to like how you regulate. Like it's so hard. Like when you have a drunk heckler, could you imagine a drunk person with a horn?
Yeah.
Like how do you like just like that could just ruin the evening. So I don't know. I haven't done any of those yet, but the outside shows have been cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So. It's different. And I've done a couple, but I'm on a loading dock in a whiskey company and the people are so far away that, and with the lights and stuff, you can't really see what's going on. And fortunately my wife's been with me when I've done them. And I go back and I say, did anybody laugh? Because and I'm old and hard of hearing anyway, and I usually don't have my hearing aids in when I'm up there. And she's like, yeah, this is where they laughed. And so I had to record my last one just so I'd know where the laughs came.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like I couldn't imagine like starting comedy during all this. Like I did an open mic and it was someone's like first show, and I was like, what? Just sit this out. But yeah, it's definitely difficult. It really bums me out. I keep getting notifications on my phone of all the shows that I was supposed to be like, you're supposed to be in Florida this week. Do you want to check? And it's like everything that got canceled for this year. I was like, I had so much booked. So it's a little depressing. I got to turn those notifications off, but I have a lot of flight credits. So it's good. I got a lot of Southwest. If you're a working comic, that's my only piece of advice for anyone is always fly Southwest.
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually do the Capital One card, and that way we can use it for anything. But that works for us. 'Cause I've got, my kids are in DC area and Huntsville, Alabama, and here I am in South Bend, Indiana. So we were flying a lot before the pandemic. Now we're driving. So I had a comedy manager be like, that was like her only piece of advice to me is like fly Southwest. Yeah. And I was like, do you want to sign me? She's like, no, fly Southwest. I was like, okay, got it. But yeah, you can change. I mean, I've like not liked the layover the night before the show. I'm like, oh, there's bad weather in Chicago. I'd rather have a layover in Wisconsin. You just change it for free. 20 minutes before. Yeah. But I got a lot of flight points, and I'm gonna be doing some driving. I'm driving from Dallas to Florida in November for a wedding. So I'm gonna hit the road a little bit, non-comedy related. Yeah. The driving's a pain, but there is a few less people on the road, so it makes it a little bit easier. Yeah, and there's something kind of nice about, like, I don't know about how Indiana is, but California, I've been in my house since March, so it is kind of nice. I can hit the road and see something different than the carport and the fire smoke. Yeah, no doubt. One of the things I like to ask everybody towards the end of the interview is, what 3 things do you know now that you wish you would have known when you started out doing stand-up? Oh, that's great. 3 things I know now that I wish I would have known. Cuss less, definitely, for sure. Write less cuss words.
for obvious reasons. I had a club manager pull me aside one time and scold me because I said the F word too many times.
Oh, okay.
And he goes, "You're a feature. You get 2 or 3 maybe per set as a feature." I was like, man, I really wish someone would have told me that a long time ago. That one, I guess the punching down thing that I came to, if you punch up, audiences will go with you almost anywhere. And then be professional. Like that's one thing that I really, because I was like in my 20s when I started comedy. So it's like showing up late and drinking too much, running up a tab just because it's free and just running the light. Like now I'm like the first person to show up to the show, even if I'm the headliner. Like I've been to shows where I've beaten the host there by 45 minutes. So just be professional, I think is like the main is really important. It just makes it so much easier.
Yeah. That's great. It's so funny because I ask almost everybody those questions, and it's either 3 things on the business side or 3 things on the performance and creative side. And it's funny because a lot of people on the business side, they just got screwed so many times, not paid and, traveled to a venue and they didn't actually have a hotel reserved and stuff like that. And that's I think they got screwed so many times that they think more business, and people who haven't been screwed as many times think more creative.
Yeah, it's really good to ask questions.
Yeah.
Really, in the beginning, you're just happy to get the gig. And now it's like, well, where am I staying?
Yeah.
How much am I getting paid?
Yeah.
I always try to not be disappointed. I always try to go into a gig just assuming that everyth's going to be terrible. I'm not going to get paid any money. And then if oh, wow, everything worked out. This is good. Yeah. The check didn't bounce. This is pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Now, I know we did this at the top of the show, but I want to make sure everybody who lasts through the end of the show, let everybody know where they can find you and what you're working on.
Yeah, Justin Comic on Instagram, Justin Comic, and YouTube, The Justin Foster. Like you were saying, all my crowd work stuff and sketches and talk show stuff is there. I'll be at the Plano. This will probably be out by then, but I'll be over by then, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm at the Plano Comedy Festival this weekend.
Yeah.
You missed it. I was great. I have an album on Spotify. Just type in Justin Foster on Spotify, and you can stream it for free.
All right, cool. I just got a green screen for Plano because I like what I've got going on back here, but I'm going to actually be standing up. So when I think about it, it's not so good. So I got a green screen. I got a big tension rod coming. See what I can do with that. And
I'm bummed we're not on any shows together. I wish that we were on one of the shows together.
Well, I'll probably watch yours anyway. I think I get to watch them all for free. So yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Doing Zoom crowd work is actually fun.
It is, isn't it?
I've gone into a mic and I just didn't feel like doing anything. So I just did Zoom crowd work. And it's funny, you get a few people who just aren't having it. They don't want to talk to you. And I kind of dig into them a little bit, but the other cool thing is the ones who do want to talk to you, and they send you a message afterwards saying, I didn't know you could do crowd work in Zoom. That's really cool.
That's funny. You just start making fun of people's bedrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one thing Zoom has taught me is how disgusting most of my friends live. That's the one thing that I've noticed. Like, you're 40. Why is there a mattress on the floor in the background? What are you doing?
Maybe empty the trash.
Yeah. What's going on over there? Looks like a Dexter kill room. Like, what is happening over there?
Well, thanks so much for being on the show, Justin. This was
thanks for having me.
And I learned a lot from you. Thanks
a
lot.
Cool. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is very fun. Thank you.